Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Prasar Bharati. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Chief Election Commissioner Rajiv Kumar highlights historic firsts of 2024 polls. Says India created a world record of 642 million voters. Terms it as historic moment for all. Claudia Sheinbaum wins landslide victory to become Mexico's first female president in country's 200-year history. And Nigerian main unions shut down power grid, disrupt airlines with indefinite strike over minimum wage. Well, let's get you the latest on world's largest election in India. India's Election Commission has issued handbook to poll officials ahead of the counting of votes of recently held general elections. The counting of votes for the general election and the state legislative assemblies of Andhra Pradesh and Odisha and by-elections to assembly constituencies shall be held on June 4, starting at 8 a.m. IST. India's Chief Election Commissioner Rajiv Kumar, along with the two election commissioners, had reviewed the counting day preparations with all chief electoral officers and returning officers. The counting trends and results as per data entered by ARO for assembly constituencies and parliamentary constituencies will be available on the ECI website as well as on the Voter Helpline app, both iOS and Android mobile apps. The Voter Helpline app can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or Apple Play Store. The poll body has also issued a handbook for returning officers and counting agents available on the ECI website. Chief Election Commissioner Rajiv Kumar highlights the historic firsts of 2024 polls. While briefing the media on the counting day preparations, the CEC said that India has created a world record of 642 million voters who took part in the Great Indian Elections 2024. He termed this as historic moment for all of us and for the nation as a whole.
We have created a world record of 642 million proud Indian voters. This is a historic moment for all of us, for the nation as a whole. 642 ever, anywhere in the world, in any of the electoral exercise. That's what is the number of voters. And this is, just to give you some small statistics, this is 1.5 times of the voters of all G7 countries. There are 312 million proud women voters. This is also the highest ever in the world. It is larger than the 2019 elections, both the total and the women voters.
The CEC also spoke of the incredible voter turnout reported from Jammu and Kashmir.
आप सब पिक्चर्स देख चुके हैं. 58.58% overall turnout and in Valley 51.5. हमने जो आंखों में चमक है, जो भविष्य को लेके चमक है, जो डेमोक्रेसी में पार्टिसिपेशन को लेके चमक थी, जो क्राउड थी, जो भीड़ थी, उसमें हमने उसको देखा है.
The CEC lauded the elders who took part in home voting as heroes.
होम वोटिंग में जिन लोगों ने हमारे साथ वोट दिया, ये हमारे लोकतंत्र के गणनायक हैं. आज़ादी से पहले का भारत इन्होंने देखा है और पिछले 70 सालों में इन्होंने देश की एक एक चीज में, तरक्की में और कार्य में भाग लिया है. इनको भी हम दिल से नमन करते हैं कि इतने दिल से इन्होंने हमारे इलेक्शंस में भाग लिया. और हमारा तजुर्बा ये कहता है कि जब हमने सबके घर में पर्ची बांटी कि आपको 12D भरना है, लेकिन मेजॉरिटी ने हमसे ये कहा कि हम बूथ पर आना चाहते हैं. We want to celebrate. We have been going to the booth. We want to go to the booth.
Meanwhile, India's Election Commission has provided central forces to prevent any post-poll violence based on assessment provided by the states and central observers. Andhra Pradesh and West Bengal have been provided with security forces for 15 days after counting days. Uttar Pradesh, Odisha, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh have been provided security forces till 2 days after counting day. A Chinese daily tabloid, the Global Times, has covered the predictions of several exit polls by Indian media outlets. In an article, the publication says that if India can work together with China in the next term of the Prime Minister, it could pave the way for improvements in the relationship between the two countries. The article said, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is likely to win a third consecutive term in office. Chinese experts noted that Modi's overall domestic and foreign policies will maintain continuity. PM is expected to persist in his efforts to bolster the country's economic growth. Analysts emphasize the importance of India collaborating with China to uphold open communication to address differences in the bilateral relations. Modi will continue to focus on propelling the country toward becoming the world's third largest economy. Additionally, Modi's strategic approach includes enhancing India's global influence through diplomatic channels. Regarding China-India relations, the possibility of strengthened confrontation between China and India unlikely if Modi wins. The Chinese side has been committed to actively enhancing relations with India, believing that maintaining stable bilateral relations are in the interests of both sides. It is imperative for India to uphold a strategic perspective toward India-China relations and collaborate with China to resolve differences through dialogue and communication. News coming in from Mexico now, where Claudia Sheinbaum won a landslide victory to become Mexico's first female president, inheriting the project of her mentor and outgoing leader, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, whose popularity among the poor helped drive her triumph. Sheinbaum, a climate scientist and former mayor of Mexico City, won the presidency with between 58.3% and 60.7% of the vote, according to a rapid sample count by Mexico's electoral authority. This is said to be the highest vote tally percentage in Mexico's democratic history. Sheinbaum has promised to expand welfare programs, maintain austerity within the country, give autonomy to the Bank of Mexico and promote private investment. The victory for Sheinbaum is a major step for Mexico, a country known for its macho culture and home to the world's second biggest Roman Catholic population, which for years pushed more traditional values and roles for women. And Latin American leaders congratulated Mexico's President-elect Claudia Sheinbaum after becoming the country's first female president. Posting messages on X, formerly known as Twitter, the president of Venezuela, Colombia, Bolivia and Cuba congratulated Sheinbaum for a historic win. Sheinbaum secured between 58.3% and 60.7% of votes, according to the INE Electoral Institute's rapid sample count released late Sunday night, the most support won by a candidate in a Mexican presidential election since the end of a one-party rule in 2000. Accepting her victory, Sheinbaum thanked López Obrador, calling him an exceptional, unique man who has transformed Mexico for the better. All right, let's take you to South Africa now. In South Africa, African National Congress lost its outright majority for the first time in 30 years after the final results were announced on Sunday. And President Cyril Ramaphosa called on his country's political parties to work together for the good of the country. The result is the worst election showing for the ANC, Africa's oldest liberation movement, once led by Nelson Mandela, ending white minority rule. Political parties now have 2 weeks to work out a deal before the new parliament sits to choose a president who would likely still hail from the ANC, since it remains the biggest force. Though the Sunday Ramaphosa said, on Sunday he said that the election result was a victory for democracy.
Thank you very much to all of you. The final announcement of the 2024 national and provincial election results today in many ways represents a victory for our democracy as South Africans. It also represents a victory of our constitutional order, but more importantly, it represents a victory for all the people of South Africa. We have held another successful election that has been free, fair, credible, and peaceful.
Nigeria's main labor unions on Monday shut down the national grid and disrupted airline operations across the country as they began an indefinite strike over the government's failure to agree a new minimum wage. The strike is the fourth embarked upon the Nigerian Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress, two of the country's biggest unions, since President Bola Tinubu took office last year. The Transmission Company of Nigeria said union members drove away operators at the country's power control rooms and shut down at least 6 substations, which eventually shut the national grid at 2:19 a.m. Electricity and Aviation Unions said in a statement on Monday that they had directed their workers to withdraw their services in compliance with the indefinite strike. And Hunter Biden is set to become the first child of a sitting US president tried for crimes just days after the historic guilty verdict against Donald Trump. Two events that may inject fresh uncertainty into the 2024 election. Jury selection begins Monday in the first of 2 cases Hunter Biden has tried to avoid for years, both to stay out of prison and spare his father, President Joe Biden, political and personal turmoil as he runs for a second term, most likely against Trump. The trial in Wilmington, Delaware, on 3 federal gun violations is expected to plumb the depths of the younger Biden's drug use. During that period, prosecutors allege he lied about his substance abuse on federal form to illegally purchase a firearm. Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan on Monday was acquitted from a conviction on charges of leaking state secrets. Despite the acquittal, Khan will remain in prison due to a conviction in another case. The High Court in Pakistan also acquitted Khan's foreign minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi of the same charges. The former PM had been sentenced to 10 years in prison on charges of making public a classified cable sent to Islamabad by Pakistan's ambassador in Washington in 2022. All right, let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. A kayaker was rescued by Sacramento first responders where after she suffered a leg injury while kayaking on the North Fork of the American River in California. The victim was brought to safety by helicopter. Italian Carabinieri police on Monday identified a 27-year-old Dutch tourist who left his signature on the ancient wall, a Roman domus in the archaeological park of Herculaneum with an indelible black marker. The historical building had survived the volcanic eruption of Mount Vesuvio in 7980. Listed as an internationally endangered species and characterized by their round heads and long, smile-like mouths, a family of finless porpoise with a baby has been spotted at a national park in South Korea. Still to come on this edition of DD India Live. IAEA Director talks about Iran and Ukraine at opening day of Board of Governors meeting in Vienna. Georgian Speaker signs Foreign Agents Bill into law, thus putting it into effect immediately.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
You're watching DD India Live. I am Siddharth Bharadwaj. UN nuclear watchdog IAEA chief Rafael Grossi has said that it will be unsafe to restart the Russian-held Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in Ukraine as long as war rages around it, despite Moscow's hopes to fire up the complex. Grossi held a meeting with Russia on the issue last week after officials including President Vladimir Putin told him Moscow hopes to restart Europe's biggest nuclear power plant, where the 6 reactors are now shut down, as the IAEA has recommended on safety grounds.
So on the issue of the restart of Zaporizhzhia, I think I wouldn't characterize the discussions or the outcome of the discussions in Kaliningrad as a formal agreement. I think it was a technical conversation, but with a coincidence in the sense that in the present circumstances, a restart, gradual or simultaneous or more than one unit would not be advisable. The reasons being, first, of course, the military operations still ongoing in the region, and secondly, the situation around the on the external power supply.
On Monday, Georgia's parliamentary speaker signed a foreign agents bill into law after government lawmakers voted last week to overcome a veto by president who had criticized it. The legislation requires organizations receiving more than 20% of their funding from overseas to register as agents of foreign influence and introduces fines for violations as well as taxing disclosure requirements. Opponents of the bill have been protesting for over a month, calling it the Russian law and that it is modeled on Russian legislation used to target opponents of President Vladimir Putin. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken held separate phone calls with Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant and Israeli War Cabinet Minister Benny Gantz, who joined Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in an emergency coalition to discuss a proposed ceasefire deal in Gaza. The calls came as an aide to Netanyahu said that Israel had accepted the deal that has been touted by President Joe Biden. In an interview, Ofer Falk, Chief Foreign Policy Advisor to Netanyahu, said that the plan was not a good deal, but Israel has accepted it. He added that Israel's conditions, including the release of hostages and Hamas's destruction, have not changed. Lebanon's caretaker Foreign Minister Abdullah Abu Habib met with Iran's acting Foreign Minister Ali Bagheri Kani during his first visit to Beirut on Monday. The Iranian minister reaffirmed need for regional cooperation in support of Gaza. Israel's military has been carrying out what it says is a limited operation since early May in Rafah to root out Hamas fighters and dismantle infrastructure used by the Palestinian Islamist militant group. Russia's Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov has said that the United States could face fatal consequences if it ignored Moscow's warnings to not let Ukraine strike targets on Russian soil. Ryabkov's comment comes in response to U.S. President Biden's decision last week to approve the use of U.S.-supplied weapons to hit targets inside Russia that were involved in attacks on Ukraine's Kharkiv region. Ryabkov said attempts by Kiev to attack Russian early warning radar systems would be thwarted and Moscow may respond asymmetrically to such steps. Now, the Executive Board of the International Monetary Fund is set to review the second evaluation of extended fund facility for Sri Lanka on 12th of June. Taking to social media platform X, Sri Lanka's State Minister of Finance said that the upcoming session aims to assess Sri Lanka's economic policies and the progress of ongoing reforms. He added that Sri Lanka is optimistic about receiving continued international support for a successful review, which is crucial for unlocking the third tranche of funding. Staying with Sri Lanka, at least 12 persons lost their lives and another 5 were missing due to the prevalent inclement weather conditions experienced in the island. Sri Lanka's State Minister of Defence, Premitha Bandara Tenakun, provided the update on latest situation, added that over 87,000 people have been affected due to the adverse weather condition. India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati on Monday announced that it will telecast the T20 World Cup being organized in West Indies and USA that started on Sunday on DD Free Dish platform. The announcement was made by CEO Prasar Bharati, Shri Gaurav Dwivedi, during an interaction with the media in New Delhi. Doordarshan will follow up the high-profile coverage of T20 World Cup with a line-up of telecast of a number of major global international sporting events. This includes live, deferred live and highlights of the Paris Olympics Games 2024, Paris Paralympic Games, International Cricket Series between India versus Zimbabwe and India versus Sri Lanka, and ladies and men's finals of the French Open 2024 and Wimbledon 2024. Namibia beat Oman in the first super over of the T20 World Cup since 2012 to begin their campaign on a winning note in Barbados. The match had gone to a decisive extra over after a tense duel saw both teams finish with 109 runs. David Wiese was the hero for Namibia in Sunday's late match, contributing 13 runs in Africa's super over total of 21 before restricting Oman to 10 runs with the ball in hand to seal a crucial win at Kensington Oval. Meanwhile, Oman had looked to be heading for defeat after a superb over-wicket bowling display from Ruben saw them all out for 109 off 19.4 overs. And after the historic 15th Champions League title, Real Madrid players presented the Champions League trophy to an ecstatic crowd in the Spanish capital's city centre on Sunday. Thousands of fans flocked to Cibeles Square to cheer Captain Nacho as he hung a club scarf on the statue of goddess Cibele.
Seeing all the happy faces of the people here is the best that can happen to a football player. This Madrid is incredible because it can achieve incredible things. We are not tired of winning. We are going to enjoy this day a lot because this is something spectacular. Hala Madrid.
Hala Madrid! And Real Madrid are preparing to announce the signing of Kylian Mbappe as a free agent, according to media reports on Sunday. The France captain is believed to be joining the Spanish giants when his contract as Paris Saint-Germain expires on June 30th. Los Blancos, who lifted a record-extending 15th Champions League trophy on Saturday, are reportedly set to confirm Mbappe's arrival next week before he carries on with Euro 2024 preparations. Mbappe has long been linked with Real Madrid, reportedly rejecting a huge offer in 2021 and was again set for a move to the La Liga side in 2022 before announcing a contract extension with PSG ahead of the transfer window opening. That's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get it's from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.